Hi folks, welcome back to Sidetracks. It's been a while since I posted any videos on here, and I thought I'd share a little bit about what I've been doing lately. I picked up a side job working at a local racetrack as a flag marshal this summer, so I've been pretty busy on the weekends doing that. But I also undertook a bunch of yard and garden projects this spring that have really kept me busy. I'm pretty much out here every single day. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of hard work, but it's a great sidetrack, a great little hobby that I picked up on the side. So I thought what I'd do today is give you a little garden tour and show you what's been going on this spring around the homestead. The first project that I undertook this spring was building a compost pile set up here, and basically got these old pallets that I reclaimed from a chicken coop that I had tried a long time ago that didn't really pan out, and built sort of a 3-bin composting system here. And you can see we added some corn husks a few days ago. Basically, we started this in March and been working on it ever since. Right now, temperature wise, yeah, our temperature is pretty low. I probably need to turn the pile. One of the things, there's a couple different things I've learned about composting. One is there's hot composting and cold composting. Hot composting goes a lot quicker and helps you develop completed finished compost a lot faster, but it takes a lot more work, and you have to come out and constantly turn the pile to keep the heat in it. And I haven't been real good at that, so I guess you could say I'm mainly cold composting, although my pile's gotten pretty hot at times. It's amazing to me. I can't even describe how much material that I've put into this compost, and it just keeps breaking down, and you come out here and a few days later the pile looks like it's a third less than it was just a few days earlier. But it's just leaves and grass clippings and vegetable scraps and cardboard and different things. You just keep putting it in there, and my plan is that in the fall, once I'm done with the garden this year, I will put a layer of compost on it, and that'll sort of refresh the soil and get ready for the spring. So turning the compost though just means getting a pitchfork and flipping it from one bin to the other, which is why you have 3 bins here. Turning it is kind of hard labor. It takes a lot of muscle and get pretty sweaty, and so I don't turn it as often as I should. I could probably get the compost heated up a lot quicker if I turned it more often. Another project that I undertook with the kids for Mother's Day this year is we built this little patio area outside on the side of our house, this little porch that sticks off the side. I had my gas grill in the garage, and every time I wanted to use it, I'd have to wheel it out into the driveway. It was kind of a pain in the butt. And this back door we had blocked off with a freezer, and we thought, you know, if we could move that grill over here on the side and build a little area, we'd get a lot more use out of it. So for Mother's Day, the boys and I leveled out this area, and we built this little patio, just put pavers down for Joanne. And then this is still a work in progress. I reclaimed some old barn doors that we had to build this little bar out here. And the idea was that it would be sort of an herb garden on top. And so when you wanted to come out and cook, or if you're in the kitchen, you could just come out and pick fresh herbs and use those. And then we also built this little wattle fence over here to sort of contain this garden. Let's see if I can walk around this way. To contain this little garden, which is where we get lots of birds. Joanne has all her bird feeders. We've been getting a lot of hummingbirds. So we got this nice little sort of hangout area. The kids have really enjoyed it. Joanne's really enjoyed it. They've had some outdoor movie nights with their friends. Like I said, the bar's still a work in progress, but it's pretty cool. But the thing for sure that I've spent the most time on is my garden. I had done a garden in the past, but never quite this ambitious, and I never put this much time and effort into it. In the past, we never really had too much trouble with deer because there's so much other food. There's farms around and there's lots of food. The deer don't seem to come to the garden too much, but we've had problems with rabbits and groundhogs in the past. And the main thing was I wanted to keep Dolly out of the garden because she liked to go in there while I was preparing it and getting it ready, and she would just wallow in the dirt. So what we did is we went around and cut some trees that needed to be trimmed anyway, and put up these fence posts. Quinn did that for me. He dug all the fence posts with a handheld post hole digger. And then we got this fencing from Rural King, and just built a little fence. It wouldn't, like I said, it won't keep deer out because it's nowhere near high enough, but so far it's worked well. And we've mulched, wood chip mulch around the whole thing, and that has done a good job of keeping the critters from trying to dig underneath the fence. Built a couple quick little gates here so we can get the wheelbarrow in and out, and we've got some barrier at the bottom to keep the rabbits and stuff from digging underneath there. And so far it's worked pretty good. So let me give you a little garden tour. On the outside of the fence, we planted mostly nasturtiums, which I had never even heard of before, but watched some videos online and found that they're good at sort of keeping pests away from your plants, because the pests will eat these nasturtiums instead. And they're really pretty flowers. You can see they come in a whole bunch of different colors. And what we did is I took one packet of these and I started them indoor in the winter time, got them going under some grow lights. And you can see this one over here and that one over there were seedlings that I planted. And then I interspersed those with just direct sowing some of the seeds as well, because I wanted to sort of experiment and see what worked better. And you can kind of tell the ones that were seedlings started indoors are certainly doing much better. You can see this one here didn't even come up, but basically every other one is looking pretty good. Some of the ones that came up from seedlings or from direct sow from seeds turned out okay, but for the most part, the ones that were seedlings did much better. So next year for sure, I'm gonna plant those early and then plant them from seedlings instead of trying to direct sow them, because I've had much better luck. And then the other thing is some of them just didn't take, some of them got chewed up by bugs. So at Dollar General, I picked up some cheap bulbs, and a couple months after I had planted these, Virginia and I went through and planted some bulbs. Frankly, I don't even remember what kind of flowers they are, but that's what you see coming up here, sort of in between some of the others are these bulbs that we grabbed at Dollar General. And so we'll see what those turn into, because like I said, I don't even remember. But I like having these flowers sort of on the outside, and I'm hoping they grow up to be nice and bushy by the end of the summer. So I'll just sort of go bed by bed here and give you a little tour. This bed here had mainly peppers and tomatoes in it, mostly cherry tomatoes, which I didn't know much. I had planted plants in the past, but just done it sort of ignorantly, not knowing what I was doing. Didn't realize there's indeterminate and determinate tomatoes. So over here, you can see we have Roma tomatoes, and it looks to me, just off the view, that these are probably determinate, because they get to a certain size and they bush out and they tend to produce the fruit all at once. These ones are mostly cherry tomatoes that we got from a friend, and these are indeterminate, meaning they basically just grow wild like a giant vine, and they just keep growing and growing and growing. And I had heard not to trellis these with tomato cages because they're just not supportive enough, but that's what I had handy, and that's what I did anyway. And I'm beginning to see why that's not a great idea, because these things are starting to outgrow their tomato cages. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do there for the rest of the summer if these things start getting out of control even more than they already are. But I don't know if you can see on there, we're starting to get some tomatoes. So hopefully pretty soon we'll be having some cherry tomatoes. The peppers, I planted a variety of hot peppers. The Tabasco peppers are doing the best, but early on I mulched. The pathways are mulched with wood chips, which have worked great, and we got a really cheap source from our local lumber mill. So you can get the chips for 10 bucks a yard, which is basically the back of a pickup truck, for $10. And so that's great. But I mulched in here. I just bought a bale of straw from our local nursery and put that down early, and that didn't work so well because it was so wet this spring that we had tons of earwigs, and the earwigs ate the heck out of my seedlings. And so the seedlings, like these Tabasco peppers that started off pretty strong and healthy as seedlings anyway, they've done okay. But the seedlings that were smaller got chewed up and eaten up real quick. So I don't have many pepper plants. Unfortunately, they got eaten up by the earwigs. And so I've planted some basil in here to replace some of the peppers that I lost. And I've had some marigolds in here too, but the earwigs chewed up the marigolds. So next year, I'm definitely gonna get my peppers started earlier, and I'm not gonna put down the straw mulch as early when they're in the seedling phase. I think I'll wait until after they get to be real healthy before I start to put down the mulch, which I just put this mulch back down. I got some different straw. It's much finer. I just put that down like a week ago. I had pulled all the old straw up that I put down initially to try to fight the earwig problem. I got that under control, and now I've gone back and mulched again, because the mulch keeps the water in the soil a little better, keeps it from evaporating, which has been helpful because it's been real hot. The spring was super wet, now it's hot. So over here we have the Roma tomatoes. We also have some asparagus planted in here. I had planted some lettuce in this area. You see a couple wild cute mushrooms there. That lettuce did not take off at all. My spinach is pretty much not doing anything. I don't know what's up with the spinach. Down here we had planted a bunch of sunflowers, and the seedlings were real tiny and they got devoured by the earwigs as well. So Virginia got some free seeds from a church thing, and we replanted them in the garage, and then took those seedlings and put them back in here after the other ones got chewed up. So we were pretty disappointed at first, but we recovered by replacing what was already lost. My cucumber trellis started out as just sort of a lean-to up against the outside fence, but then I realized it was too hard to get in underneath it. You basically had to crawl behind it. So we went and put this little extension at the top so that they're growing now a little bit more vertically and we can walk behind it. And so the cucumbers are an interesting story too, because I planted those inside the garage from seed in the wintertime to get them going, which they tell you not to do, that cucumbers are better off just direct sowed. But I was impatient and I wanted to get going. And when I transplanted the seedlings at the beginning, they struggled big time. And I think it was because it was so wet and not warm enough out. But I thought for sure I was gonna lose all my cucumber plants because they were turning yellow and they just did not look good at all. But once it got hot, they started to recover. And as you can tell, you could probably see here, we're doing pretty good. We're starting to get a lot of cucumbers. And what I got to do this morning is I got to continue to train these vines and start tying them up a little more so that they continue to grow up this trellis. But I think we're going to have a crap ton of cucumbers here pretty soon. And the benefit of putting them up on a trellis like this, one is they don't take over your garden. But two, it gets air circulating around them, and then you can see the cucumbers grow sort of up in the air. So they're easy to pick. You don't have ones stuck on the ground rotting. You get good air circulation, so there's less chance for them to get disease and get fungus and stuff. So I've never done that before. I've never trellised cucumbers and tried to grow them like this. But man, I would never do it any other way now, because this is awesome. It gives you way more space to work with because they don't take up anywhere near as much space. It's kind of like putting a skyscraper up in a city. The building footprint is way smaller, so you got a lot more room to work. This bed in the middle is our long-term perennial bed. We've got asparagus growing in the middle, which you have to plant and basically let go for 2 or 3 years before you actually start getting asparagus. But then once it starts growing, you could have asparagus plants that produce for the next 20 years and you don't have to do anything. It'll just keep coming back. So we're pretty excited about that. And then I ordered a bunch of strawberry plants too. And you could see some strawberry plants in the middle there. That was sort of a mixed bag. A few of them are doing really well, but I think I waited too long. They came in the mail and I just didn't have time to plant them right away. And they sat in the garage for a while. And so I think I probably screwed up there. And that's why I didn't get a better percentage of my strawberry plants to take. This particular bed just keeps having mushrooms popping up left and right. So we come out here and pull those all the time. But I think eventually this is going to be really cool. But what I want is for strawberries to overtake this entire bed eventually, because they'll put out runners, and we'll, as many strawberries as we can, plant, we'll eat them because we love them. All right, this bed here is sort of a mixed bag. On the left side, I planted a bunch more pepper plants. And again, they got devoured pretty early on by earwigs, but you could see they're starting to come back. And so I'm hoping if I just be patient that these peppers will come along and eventually they'll produce. I've got a lot of carrots. We planted a lot of carrots in the middle, and I've heard that carrots are very difficult to plant because if you have rocky soil, they'll turn out, weird shaped and odd. And if you don't keep them really moist during germination, they won't germinate. And so we have carrots coming up. For the number that I planted, we don't have very many. I don't know that I'll ever do carrots again, but I wanted to try it because it's another thing that we eat. And I just wanted to give it a shot, but we'll see how it goes. Next year, I may not do carrots. Joanne and Virginia helped me build this little trellis out of some extra fence we had. And these are pole beans, so that eventually you can see they're starting to grow up this trellis. And eventually they will cover this whole thing, and we'll be able to just walk under here and pick all of our pole beans from the trellis. So that's nice too. You can see we're starting to get a few going there. That'll be nice because it'll be easy to pick. And again, it gives you some more space because you're growing vertically. The lettuce, we've had real good luck with this lettuce. We've been eating it probably every other day. We chop off some of the plant, have salad for dinner, and it just keeps growing back. Again, spinach, not so great. Zucchini, zucchini is like the easiest thing in the world to grow. So I've got, 5 zucchini plants in there. I'm sure we're gonna have tons of zucchini. There's some more sunflowers that we stuck in there. I don't know if they're gonna go because they're getting shaded out so much by the zucchini. You can tell the leaves on those sunflowers are a little yellowish. And I think they're probably just not getting enough sunlight. So those sunflowers may not go, but we just kind of threw them in there because we had extras. Potatoes over here. The potatoes, I tried a couple different things. Tried 2 sets growing them in tires and mounting them up, and then one in this sort of basket. And they seem to be doing well. It was the first thing I planted. They were super green. They're starting to die off now, which is good. That's what you want. And then once these things die off, you leave them in the ground for like another 2 weeks so that the skin will toughen up and they'll store longer. But I'm eager to see, the bugs have chewed up some of the leaves. I'm hoping that they haven't, gotten down into the actual potatoes, but that's the thing I'm probably the most excited about it. Never tried growing potatoes before. And I love potatoes, so I'm eager to see how these things are going to turn out. And the last bed we have here, well, you may ask, why do I have a mailbox in my garden? I saw this little tip online. Just keep some hand tools and scissors and different things in there so that when you're working in the garden, you don't have to constantly be going back and forth to the garage or the shed to get tools. So I just keep that little mailbox there. We've got some corn going. In here are the pumpkins, and the pumpkins I started out just on the ground with no trellis, and they were starting to take over. I started them indoors as well, so they were very strong before I put them in the ground. And the corn I planted from seed, And what was happening was the pumpkins were choking out the corn, and the tendrils on the pumpkins were starting to yank the corn down. We had some sunflowers planted here too. They'd attach to those and they'd be yanking them down, and basically they were choking out and killing the corn. So Isaac and Virginia and I and Grady got us some rebar when he went to Lowe's, and we built this sort of makeshift trellis to get the pumpkins up off the ground and to get them away from the corn. And since we did that, the corn has jumped up, and you can see it's doing a lot better. One of the things I learned about corn is that it's wind pollinated. So you want to plant it rather than in just a couple long skinny rows. You want to plant it more in blocks, because the wind will shake those tassels, and that's what causes whatever the seeds to fall down from the top and pollinate. Each kernel of corn has to be pollinated, and each silk is connected to a kernel to pollinate that, which I never knew any of that stuff, but that's pretty cool. The other thing that I've learned about pumpkins is that the flowers that pop up, there are actually male and female flowers. And so if you can see here, these are the male flowers. You can see that little thing right there. That's the male flower, and that has pollen on it. And then the female flowers, I don't know if you can see, there's not a flower on it, but up there, there's sort of a little ball. There was a flower on that. That's the female. And so you're hoping that the pollen comes off of these male flowers and hits those females before they close up. And you can actually cut these off and then sort of do it yourself with a paintbrush or a Q-tip, or just take those and rub them on the other ones to try to pollinate them yourself. But the issue we've been having is we're getting all these males, kind of like the Smith household, lots of males, not that many females. And I guess that's a typical thing, but you can see all the flowers that popped up this morning are males. So I'm hoping as time goes on here, we'll get more females, and that means we'll get more pumpkins. And the other thing that's cool, and that I never realized, these pumpkin flowers pop up for just a couple hours in the morning. They'll open up, and then if they're not pollinated, they just fall off, they just die. And so we keep getting new flowers popping up every day, and then you'll find these flower heads, if you could see down there, on the ground, and they'll just fall off. So it's like you got one chance to get that guy useful and pollinated, and then if it's not used, it's done. But luckily there's lots of other flowers getting ready to pop, so hopefully we'll have some pumpkins here. But this is going to be another challenge. We just got to keep these under control because they grow so fast and take up so much space. We don't want them choking out everything else. Over here, sunflowers. I planted a lot of sunflowers because, one, I love sunflower seeds, and two, I thought we could basically make our own bird seed. These ones got eaten up by the earwigs as well, so we replaced them. Some of them that got eaten up, and these ones are doing really good. They're about probably 4 feet tall right now, so that's a plus. We're gonna hopefully have some sunflowers, more beans on this side. We have beans planted on both sides of the trellis. Over here we have some acorn squash. So I think I've got, I don't know how many I planted, 6 or 8 acorn squash plants at the beginning. The thing that I kind of messed up here is I put these trellises in early, and it's hard to weed around them. It's just, I made it inaccessible. So I think I would do that differently next year, but there's not much I could do now because these acorn squash are starting to take off. We've got some more lettuce down here. One of the reasons I did it that way is because lettuce likes shade. So I thought the acorn squash would grow up that trellis and provide some shade for the lettuce. This lettuce hasn't been doing quite as good, ironically, as the lettuce that's out in the open, but still doing well. We're cutting it and eating it. Marigolds. I've planted a lot of individual marigolds, just 1s and 2s here and there. And I noticed they didn't do well at all. They got eaten by the bugs. But the marigolds that I planted in clumps, like these ones here, did much better. So I think next year, lesson learned there, I'm gonna try to keep my marigolds buddied up and try to keep them together as much as I can. So anyway, that's why I haven't been posting on Facebook or YouTube much, because I've been out here in the garden for the last months. I started planning all this in March. I did I did a lot of the seedlings indoors in March and April, put everything in the ground around Memorial Day, and then been out here tending it ever since. So pretty excited about it. And it's a really cool hobby that I think I'll keep going. Now that we have the beds built, that was the hardest part, was putting up the fence, cutting all the posts, getting all these log borders in, getting all the wood chips down. Now that that's done, that's the hard part, is building the infrastructure. You know, once we get a system here, it should be much easier in the next few years to just rotate our crops and maybe adjust the trellising here and there. But the infrastructure is in place that we should be able to keep this going for a long time. So that's pretty exciting. So that's our garden tour. I hope you liked it. That's it for me for now. I've got some work to do. I got to get out here in the garden and do some weeding and fertilizing and watering. That's one thing about the garden, is it never stops. So hope you enjoyed it. And if you need some cucumbers or zucchini, let me know. I'm your man. And here's the real story behind all this. It ain't pretty. Lots of hours of sweat and dirt. And what do you get in the end? 3 cucumbers that you probably could have bought for $2 at the store. But you know what? It's not the destination, it's the journey.